Are you ready to take that next step in luxury river cruising? Today, we're taking a look at a new player in the market, Riverside Luxury Cruises on the Danube. Stay tuned. My guest today is Susanne Rose, a luxury travel specialist with Cruise Holidays of Oakville. Specializing in luxury travel and river cruising, Susanne has spent over 150 nights on board river cruise ships. Hi, Susanne. Welcome back to RTE Travel Talk.
Hi, Ken. How are you?
I'm fantastic. It's great to have you with us. So let's kind of get right into it. One of the river cruise lines that we're seeing a lot of interest in is this new luxury line, Riverside Luxury Cruises. Now, I happen to know that you have just recently returned from a sailing on the Riverside Mozart. So I was hoping today you and I could spend a little time learning about Riverside and reviewing the cruise. How does that sound?
That's great. Let's do it.
Perfect, perfect. Why don't we start, Suzanne, by you telling our viewers and listeners just a little bit about the history of Riverside Luxury Cruises, the brand, and perhaps how it compares to some of the other river cruise lines.
So, Riverside started sailing last year in 2023. I took this sailing in July of this year on the Danube. I chose that sailing specifically because I wanted to check out the Mozart,
Right.
which is a unique ship. It's a double wide, it only sails on the Danube. And I particularly love the itinerary. We sailed from Passau to Passau and went through the Wachau wine valley in Austria, out to Vienna, and back again, visiting alternate ports on the return.
Oh, sounds marvelous. So I gather the Mozart is quite a luxurious vessel. If I remember correctly, it was once owned by Crystal Cruises.
That's correct. Riverside had purchased the ships from Crystal.
Mm-hmm.
The ship is, I would classify it as a subtle elegance.
Okay.
It has more subtle tones, comfortable furniture, beautiful decor inside.
Yeah.
It's unique, I would say, onto itself.
Okay. Now, when you mentioned it's a double wide, let's explain that for the viewers. What do you mean by double wide?
So it's twice as wide as a typical river cruise boat,
Right.
which in this case, they only have up to a maximum of 162 passengers on board. 162 is still less than what a typical single wide river cruise ship has. So this allows for a lot of extra space on board, more amenities, and so forth.
And obviously a better guest to passenger ratio. Yeah.
Exactly. It's roomier. There's no hustle and bustle on board whatsoever. It's just really very comfortable, leisurely on board. The rooms are spectacular.
Now, speaking of the rooms, are they roughly the same size as you'd find on other river cruise lines, or how did you find your room?
They're larger. The lead-in is 212 square feet, which is a very good size. And I had the opportunity to tour all the various categories on board,
Mm-hmm.
and the largest one going up to over 800 square feet. What's also quite unique about them is even in the higher categories, they do have the ability to have adjoining rooms, which are great for family,
Yeah,
friends, etc.
and that's rare. You don't see that in a
It's
lot of
not
river cruise
it's
ships.
not a given,
Yeah,
that's for sure.
yeah.
It's not a given.
So the lead in was like 212 square feet. That's a good size.
It's a good size. The lead-in, they all have a real true king-size bed in them, which also isn't necessarily the
Yeah,
case.
yeah.
So it's very comfortable, very roomy, spacious. My suite, and they're all suites on board, have a refrigerator. It's stocked. I had wine brought to my room. So it was quite comfortable.
Now the other thing that comes with them, which appears to be all the rage, is a butler.
So the opinions, I think, vary on having a butler.
Really?
It's not for
Yeah,
everybody. There are some people who don't,
yeah.
it's not really for them. For me, it was a great benefit. So I traveled as a solo on this particular sailing,
Right.
and I had a butler, and we communicated with each other over technology. So when there was something new coming up, an event in the evening, so for instance, we had a tapas dinner that was not advertised anywhere. She made me aware of that. There was also a barbecue dinner that was going on outside that she also made me aware of. It was discreet. She was really barely noticeable.
I can see where with a butler, I know, I suppose a lot of people like to do for themselves, but it's nice to have that extra pair of hands.
It was nice
Yeah.
because quite often she would communicate with me when I wasn't even on board. If something was going on that just came about, because on river cruises, a lot has to do with weather.
Yep.
So she would communicate with me when I wasn't even on board, which for me worked out quite well. I mean, I think for some people it sounds pretentious,
Yeah.
but I find them actually to be very, very helpful.
Yeah, great. So the lead-in room that you said they're all suites. Did it have like a French balcony or?
So I had what they call a swan view.
Oh, you did
So
have. Okay.
I had a swan view, which is a window.
Yep.
It was still very
Yep.
spacious. And then they go up from there. Then they go to a French balcony.
Right.
Then they go up to the higher end
Yep.
suites.
Yeah. So with the swan view, you're basically at the water line, and the reason they call it
You're at
swan
water.
views is you're going to get up some
That's
morning and see a swan swimming by.
right. That's right. Hmm.
Well, that's kind of fun.
Yeah, I spent very little time
Yeah.
in my suite,
Yeah.
really just to sleep at
Of
night.
course.
I had a fairly active itinerary. We were someplace new every day,
Yeah.
and I tried to take advantage of what was being offered.
So the Danube is known for its rich history and beautiful landscapes. Take a minute and walk us through your itinerary. What were some of your standout ports and memorable
So
experiences?
for me, the Wachau Valley is spectacular. It's just breathtaking. What was nice about that is we did take the opportunity to sail during the day through the highlighted area of the Wachau Valley. So
Okay.
it's wine country. It's beautiful. The highlight for me was spending 2 days in Vienna, which is also not a given.
Right.
Vienna has so much to offer. It's so rich culturally and with so much history that having 2 full days in Vienna was spectacular for me. And I've been there many times in the past, and I still find new things to see and do every time I go there.
Now, with most river cruises, they all have unique excursions and tours. With Riverside, how many per day were available, and how would you rate your guides and the service they provided?
So I guess I need to start off a little bit by explaining the price structure
Sure.
of Riverside.
Right.
Riverside has various price structures. So you can get a full board,
Hmm.
which includes your meals. You can also get a premium inclusive package which includes your meals as well as your alcoholic beverages.
Okay.
In addition to that, you can also get a package that includes all of those things plus shore excursions.
Oh, okay.
So that way, it gives you the opportunity to build your vacation according to what it is that you really want and need. And that way, you're not paying for things that you don't need. Where typically on a river cruise, at the very minimum, alcoholic beverages are included with lunch and dinner.
Yeah.
If you don't drink alcohol,
You're still paying for
it's
them.
it's still included in your price.
Right.
Where in this particular case, it's not. If that's something that you don't want, you don't need to take it, which I think is a great price model. In my case, I had the shore excursions included,
Right.
which gave me either a full day excursion or 2 half-day excursions,
Okay.
which worked out for me really well because in Vienna, I took advantage of mornings and afternoons and I tried to get in as much as I possibly could.
Yeah.
The highlight, I'll say, as far as excursions go, was we did a trip to Český Krumlov in the Czech Republic.
Right.
And that was about an hour and a half away from Linz. Český Krumlov dates back to the 13th century. It's very historical. We had a fabulous tour guide. The tour guides were fantastic all the way throughout.
Fantastic. That's a really different pricing structure for Riverside. I will be interested to see how they get along with it as the years go by. but
Yes,
it makes a lot of
the other
sense.
it sure
Yeah.
does. It sure does. And I think, even though it's in the luxury segment,
Yeah.
people are still value oriented.
Oh, for sure.
And, they don't necessarily want to have to pay for something that they're not going to use,
Yeah.
or this way they have the option. Also very interesting with Riverside is they offer itineraries starting from 3 days.
That's
So
different.
it ranges from 3 days to 14
Yeah.
days. So you could easily, if you're doing a land tour or a rail tour in Europe, you could add on a 3-day river cruise.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting. Going back to the excursions, how does the tipping work? Were gratuities included with your fare? And as part of that, did you need to have extra gratuities for your guides?
No, all the tipping is included, whether that be your steward, your butler, your tour guide, the bus driver, it's all included. Now there's always discretionary things. If
Yeah,
you feel that somebody's given you extra special service, you can always tip them, but it's absolutely not required or even expected.
right. So depending on which pricing model you choose, if you've taken excursions, then the gratuities for the guides and stuff is included, and
It's
in,
all
and as a result, it's not expected.
right. So when I left ship
Yeah.
at the end, I had a zero bill. There was nothing outstanding at the end.
Now, with most river cruises, there's typically, because when it gets down to the size of the ship, there's typically just one dining experience. How did you find the onboard dining on the Mozart?
The Mozart has 5 different dining venues.
Wow.
One being their main dining area. They have a bistro which is available to lunch.
Right.
That was called the Blue. There's a bistro that offers breakfast for late risers. It has cake, it has ice cream, cheeses, and so
Yeah.
forth. They have a grill on the very top deck, and they also have complimentary 24-hour in-suite dining. So there was no shortage of venues. You could mix it up a little bit during the time that you're on board. The dining was spectacular. This was probably the best dining experience that I've had on land or on water
Oh,
anywhere.
wow, that's high praise.
It's not Michelin dining, but it's probably as close to that as you're going to get. There were numerous things to choose from, and it was exquisite.
It's always amazed me how they can deliver such high quality cuisine.
I toured the galley
Yeah.
on this particular ship just to get a behind the scenes look at how they do
Yeah.
this. And they actually have a very large galley. For a river ship, it's a very large galley. The quality, it was really top notch. And I don't say that lightly,
Yeah.
and it was spectacular.
Fantastic, fantastic. Now, most river cruises are kind of a relaxed, more personal experience. I gather with the Butler Service in every cabin that Riverside is going above and beyond. How do you rate their service?
The service was top
Yeah.
notch, but it was very personal. And they had little nuances that I'd never seen before.
All right.
On days where I was up on board deck while we were sailing, they brought homemade ice cream, just a little pot, and little things to nibble on here and there. For a luxury cruise line, it was a very relaxed atmosphere. I can't say enough good things about
Yeah.
Riverside because I just found it exceptional.
So, for folks that are considering this cruise line, the atmosphere is relaxed, stuffy. What type of people are we going to find on board?
I was very surprised. I mean, river cruises have, I'll say, the reputation of having an older age group
Yeah.
on board. This was not the case on this particular sailing that I was on. I would say there were people on board from their late 20s to their mid 60s, maybe even early
Right.
70s, and everything in between. Primarily people from Europe, although there was still a good amount of passengers on board from North America. There were people from Canada. There were people from the United States on board. There were people from South America on board. It's quite diverse. in that regard. And because I would equate Riverside to being the equivalent of a boutique hotel, and because of their varied itinerary
Hmm.
range, the duration range, and what they offer, I think it appeals to younger people as well.
Yeah.
Younger people like to move around on their vacations, and they'll spend 2 days here and 3 days there. And Riverside fills that
Yeah.
for them
Exactly. With those 3 and 4 day options, you can add on a,
easily.
a river
Yeah.
cruise to any kind of a land tour.
That's right. Now, Riverside is a European
Yep.
company. I think that's why they attract Europeans
Yes.
mainly,
Yep.
primarily. And because they're new to North America, they're still trying to get their footing in that market.
Right. So not everybody in North America's found them yet.
They are starting to, I see them being presented here and there.
Yeah.
They recently won an award with Travel and Leisure magazine, which I think is remarkable, having only been on the water not even a year.
Yeah.
Um,
No,
and
absolutely.
I think they're going to be somebody that we hear more and more from in the future.
I would tend to agree. So let's get down to brass tacks here. How does Riverside compare in price point to, for example, like a more contemporary line like On the Waterways or some of the luxury lines, such as a Uniworld?
So I think, I mean, it's hard to nail that down
Yeah.
because of their price model.
Yeah.
I would say, and I've done this legwork myself. I think too, because they're new, they're perhaps a little bit more aggressive with their pricing at the moment
Right.
to try and get people out
Yeah.
there to try it. I would say, if you're interested in doing a river cruise, it's worthwhile to do the comparison pricing and take the extras that you're interested in doing,
Yeah.
whether that be the beverages or the shore excursions, and price that out as a comparison, and I think you'd be very surprised at what you come out with.
Exactly. And you can also do that for your clients as well, I'm sure.
And
Yeah.
I have. So, I mean, I also have clients booked on Riverside because of my own
Yeah.
experience. I was so happy with them that I felt confident in referring them further.
If we were going to try to sum it up, and for those folks considering a river cruise on the Danube, why would you recommend Riverside Luxury River Cruises? What sets it apart in your view?
I thought the culinary aspect of it was really spectacular.
Yeah.
And I think that that is an element that either makes or breaks your holiday. I think the flexibility aspect on their durations is really something to pay attention to.
Yeah.
Not only that you can use it as an add on to perhaps something that a land holiday or rail, 7 days doesn't always work for people, especially in this day and age.
Yeah.
And they may say, especially if you're coming from North America, you need to add on a couple extra days for travel time,
Yeah.
that perhaps a shorter itinerary may be better.
Yeah. No, definitely. Definitely.
I think the other thing that impressed me specifically about the Mozart was because it's a larger ship,
Right.
the amenities on board were also that much better. So, for instance, their spa area, they had, I would say, for a river cruise, a good sized pool with a jacuzzi. They had a relaxation area that overlooked the bow of the ship. So when you're sailing, you could lay there and take it all in. Quite often, I'll say if you're looking for gym to visit the gym on a river cruise, usually the offerings are small and a few pieces of equipment. This was a full size gym, and that's not something that we typically get. And I think also the variety of the dining venues, that you're not sitting in the same restaurant for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
So you just basically what you're saying is you have so many more options on this particular
Exactly.
ship.
Exactly.
Well, this has been fantastic, Suzanne. If you had to pick just one moment or experience from your trip that really stands out, what would that be?
I would say it was in Vienna. We had a private concert. This was held in the Belvedere Palace,
Oh, wow.
which was extraordinary. We had a bit of a tour of the palace. We had a champagne reception, And then we had a private concert just for the guests of the Riverside Mozart.
Wow.
So that was it was very
So
special.
that's something you're always going to remember.
Most definitely.
Well, this has been fantastic. If folks wanted to reach out to you, Suzanne, about a river cruise with Riverside, how can they contact you?
They can either reach me at 905-337-2228, or they can send me an email at Suzanne@cruiseholidaysoakville.com,
Perfect, perfect,
and I'll be happy to help them out.
perfect. Well, I'll leave that contact information in the description for those that like to reach out. But as always, when it comes to this channel, I get to live vicariously through the travels of all the wonderful people I get to interview. So I have to know what's next on your travel to do list.
Well, next week I'm off to Croatia.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, I'm flying into Dubrovnik and going to experience some of the culture of the countryside, the history of Dubrovnik. I'm really looking forward to it.
People rave about Dubrovnik. We'll have to have you back to give us a quick review of Croatia. How
I'd
does
love,
that sound?
I'd love to.
Perfect, perfect. Well, with that, Suzanne, I'm just going to wish you safe and happy travels on all your future destinations and river cruises. May the wind always be at your back, and I hope to see you on the Alito deck sometime soon in the future.
Good to see you again. Thanks, Ken.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. And that about wraps it up for today, folks. A very special thanks to my guest, Suzanne Rose of Cruise Holidays of Oakville. If you'd like to reach Suzanne, I will leave her contact information in the description. If you'd like to reach out to us with a suggestion for a future interview or a question, you can send a question to questions@realtravelexperts.com, visit our website, realtravelexperts.com, or simply leave a comment. We always respond. And as always, folks, if you enjoy this content, a like, subscribe, share, and ring of the bell is certainly appreciated and helps us to spread the word. So until next time, happy travels.